review day 4. I'm going to do the same thing that I've done with the previous day 3s, where I do questions 1 through 12 on the first one, and then 13 through 25 on the last one for the last video. Okay, so I should preview it so I can see the actual multiple choice. Start new attempt. And make sure you use your formula sheet anytime you're stuck, to see if there's some kind of formula you can use to help you solve the problems. The first one, which of the following belongs to the set of rational numbers? So they're all square roots. Rational means it would be a perfect square root. I know right away it's this one, but let me just show you how I would check if I wasn't quite sure. And I'm going to get this over here a little more so I can see. So the square root of 60, when I type that in, that is not a perfect square root, so that's not rational. That would be irrational. The square root of 62 is, again, not a perfect square root. Square root of 64 is that perfect 8. And the square root of 66 is not a perfect square. So the only rational number is 64. Oh, yikes. Number 2, which expression has a value of 6 when x is 9 and y is 16? So the strategy that I'm going to use here is my lovely calculator, and I'm just going to plug my x in. So I have x is 9. Oh, did I say 6? Oops. I'm going to plug my 9 in for all of my x's, and then I'm going to plug my 16 in for all my y's, and I'm going to find out which one has that value of 6. So first one, the square root of x, which is 9, plus the square root of y, which is 16, get out of the square root, because if you do minus 1 in here, it's going to go 16 minus 1 and then square root it. So you want to make sure to get out of that square root sign. So I'm in it, press the arrow over to get out, and then minus 1, and that's 6. Oh, look at that. First one, that's awesome. But I just want to double check and show you that if you plug it in for the others, so I would do the second, the square root of x, which is 9, times the square root of y, which is 16. Get out. Oh, see, I didn't get out of my square root. So I have my double root there. Let me do it again. Second square root of 9. Get out of the square root. And then what do I have? Times second, the square root of y, which is 16. Get out of your square root. And then add 1 plus 1. And that's 13. Definitely not the 6 I wanted. Now this is the absolute value. Remember, to get to the absolute value, you do math, go to number, abs. So, and then you get your absolute value bar, x minus y. So 9 minus 16, get out of your absolute value symbol, and then plus 1, enter, and that's 8, not my 6. And then I would have the absolute value of negative x minus y. So go to your math function, number, abs for absolute value. Negative x would be negative 9. Negative 9 minus 16. Get out of the absolute value, take away y, which was 16, and that is 9. So, I mean, you clearly don't have to go through all that. I just wanted to show you how I actually type those in. Okay, number 3. Which of the following points is not 5 units away from the point x comma y? So this is just a random point. X comma y is just kind of this whatever random point. This one says y take away 5. So it would be, if you would be able to use graph paper on this one. So I'm going to Google coordinate plane. Oh, I don't think you get a coordinate plane though. Actually, I think you only get grid paper. I'm going to Google grid paper here and show you what you could do. And you just have to make your own coordinate planes. If you're given grid paper, here's a good one. Okay, So if I had a point right here, and my y just went down 5, so my x doesn't go anywhere. My y just went down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 5 units away. So that works. That one works. So the next one, we have x plus 1, y minus 4. So I'm going to just pick a random point. So here's one. X plus 1 would mean I'd go to the right one. Y minus 4 means you'd fall down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one I'd have to use Pythagorean's theorem because it's a diagonal. So you have to do a squared plus b squared. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is your leg here. So it'd be 4 squared plus y squared, and then take the square root. So 4 squared plus 1 squared, enter, and then square root it. That's not going to be 5, but I'll just show you. Square root 17. Yeah, that's definitely not 5. So that one is not 5 units away. I could show you this other one. I might as well. I'm sure you just want to hear all about it. So the next point is x minus 3, y plus 4. So I'm going to make a random point, and then I'm gonna go down here because I have to go. Is it y plus 4? Yes, because I have to go up. So I'm going to make it down here. So x minus 3 would be 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3. And y plus 4 would be up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one is also like a triangle, so I have to do Pythagorean. So if you can envision making your triangle, 1, 2, 3, 4 here, 1, 2, 3 here. So I'm going to do the square root of 4 squared plus 3 squared. So 4 squared plus 3 squared. And the square root of that would be 5. So that one was 5 units away. And this one just says x plus, so this one's 5 units. And this just says x plus 5. So it means if you had a point, I'm not even going to go to the grid paper, you're just going to get 5 over to the right. That is also 5 away. So that was the only one. This first one and last one was the easiest to analyze. I had to use Pythagorean's theorem for those middle ones. Okay, number 4. Solve the following inequality. No spaces. All right, so be very, very careful. This is a one where I can guarantee I'm going to have to flip. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to flip, so I'm going to make my inequality a less than. And be careful when you distribute because you're distributing a negative 4. So you distribute first. It's going to be 5x. I wish I had touch screen. Plus, now I'm going to distribute negative 4 times 7 is a negative 28. That looks like not a 2 here. Okay, and then plus negative 4 times 2 is a negative 8x. Oh gosh, I'm trying so hard to write nice, but it doesn't work. Is greater than negative 13. Okay, so now our strategy is to combine like terms on the same side. So on the left side, it looks like I can combine 5x and negative 8x. So 5 and negative 8 is a negative 3. So negative 3x plus a negative 28 is bigger than negative 13. Okay, and now I'm going to move what's not sticking to the variable. So you can either just add 28 over, or you can think of it as you need to subtract a negative 28. But either way, that's a plus plus. So add 28 over, and they're different signs, so I'm going to actually subtract them. That would be 15. That's an 8, not a 0, by the way. And I have more positives. So 15, and then my inequality looks like this still, and a negative 3x. And then I'm going to divide by a negative, and that's where I create a false statement. So if you divide by a negative, we have to flip the inequality. So x is going to be flip it less 15 divided by -3 is a -5. So x is less than -5. So I would write x less, excuse my phone, -5. Oh, we've done this one a couple days. So let y equal -6x minus 3. If the value of the dependent variable is -2, what is the value of the independent? So y depends on x. Y changes for whatever x decides it wants to be. So dependent means y. So I'm going to say -2 equals, and then -6x minus 3. -6. Well, what is that? That should be a 6. -6x minus 3. And then I'm just going to solve. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So plus 3, that's going to give me a +1 equals -6x. And then I have to divide by a -6 because they're sticking together. So that implies multiplication. So to get rid of multiplication, you divide and just leave it as a fraction. Especially as an 8th grader, we always leave it as a fraction. And we always have to think of our negatives like related to slope. This negative should not be on the denominator. You would need to type it like this. You always have it on the outside, -1/6. So that's a 6. So that was -1/6. Okay. Number 6, Maria determined that she had enough time to walk m is less than or equal to 7.5 miles. Which of the following describes Maria's situation? Maria has time to walk more than 7.5 miles. Well, no, because it's less than, so that's a no-go. Maria has time to walk at least. So at least means that she could walk more than or equal to 7.5. So no, she doesn't have that kind of time. Maria has time to walk no more than 7.5. Maria has to walk fewer than 7.5. No more means that you can equal it. Fewer than means you can't. So this would be like mile is strictly less than 7.5. That's a 7, and it only looks like a 1. 7.5. So she can walk 7.5 miles. So we want it to equal. It would be no more than. And by the way, can we just take a minute to appreciate that she's walking that far? Holy cow. Okay, number 7. What is an equation of a line that passes through Q and is parallel to MN? So parallel means that they should not cross. We've done this on a different day where it's perpendicular, but now we want parallel. So we want it to look like this. So you can't graph x equals because on the graphing calculator, it's only in slope intercept. So I'm just going to go to the y equals -3. Remember to use this button for the negative, or here, I was about to do this, -3, and graph it. And then it says, what? You're wrong. It says syntax error. So I have to go back. Whoops, I have to clear this. Go back and say, oh yeah, I have to use this little dash for my negative. -3. And then if we graph that, oh, that's the line I wanted. I'll just show you y equals -2. And y equals -2 would also work because it's a horizontal line, except it wouldn't have passed through Q, and we wanted it to pass through Q. So y equals 2 is up here, really close to that MN. And then the x's are the vertical lines then. So they're always the opposite. Okay, so what did we get? We got y equals -3. Okay, number 8. Which of the following best describes the locations of 20 and the square root of 200 on a number line? So I'm just going to see what the square root of 200 is. And that is like 14 something. So it says the square root of 200 cannot be located on a number line. Yeah, it can. It can be estimated. I mean, it's not going to be exact, but you definitely can do it. 20 lies to the left of the square root of 200. So if the square root of 200 is 14, 20 would lie over here if this was a number line. So it would have lied to the right. So that's not it. And then the next one says 20 and the square root of 200 are the same. No, they definitely aren't. And then the last one says 20 lies to the right. And yeah, because the square root of 200 is what, 14 something? And so 20 is going to lie over here to the right. Look at my 2's, they're ridiculous. Okay. Moving on to question number 9. No calculator, I'm yelling at you on that one. Which of the following is equal to parenthesis negative 2 to the 4th? Or negative 4. So I have a negative exponent. And when I have a negative exponent, I need to bring it to the bottom. So it's going to be 1 slash parenthesis negative 2. Oh my goodness, I can't handle that. Okay, I'm going to do it again. 1 slash parenthesis, I'm going to be very careful with my 2, negative 2 parenthesis to the 4, because now it's positive since it's on the bottom. And now I have to evaluate negative 2 inside parenthesis. So negative 2 inside parenthesis means that you're timesing everything by a negative 2 each 4 times. So it would be negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times, oh gosh, times, and then one more negative 2. Okay, and then I'm just going to, the negatives are going to end up canceling out because this turns to a positive 4, and you could group these two together too. This also turns to a positive 4. So 4 times 4 is 16, so it should be 1 slash 16 on the denominator. So 1 slash 16, and it looks like that's letter C. Number 10. What is the equation of a line that passes through 4, negative 1 and is perpendicular to the line that passes through negative 5, 1, and 1, 6? So this one's definitely going to take a little bit of algebra. Again, don't shut down over the amount of time it takes. You have time to go through this process. So the first thing I need to do is figure out what my slope's going to be. So since I'm perpendicular, perpendicular means you flip it and make it the opposite sign. So it's going to be, if you forget about slope, I have 2 points there, and slope of a line is equal to y minus y over x minus x. So I have xy, xy, so y minus y, 6 minus 1 over x minus x, 1 minus negative 5. 1 minus negative 5. And simplify that. That would be 5 over 1 minus negative 5 is a plus plus, so that would be 5/6. And then this one is not going to be pretty. Then what we have here, this is my slope, but I need to be perpendicular, so I flip it, 6 over 5, and I make it the opposite sign. So it would be negative. Okay, so now I'm done with these because I only wanted them for the slope. Now I pass through this point. So I have my point and a slope. Point and a slope, we need to use point slope form. So y, take away the y they gave you, is equal to the slope parenthesis, x, take away the x they gave you. And you're going to have fractions, but good thing we have this calculator. So y, take away the y they give me, minus negative 1, so that's a plus plus, equals your slope, negative 6 over 5, parenthesis, x minus, oh, good gracious. Okay, I'm going to just negative 6/5. I'm going to start this over. So I don't need these anymore. And then I have negative 6/5 as my slope. That's a 6 / 5. Okay. Oh, good gosh. So y, take away the y they gave me, -1, equals my slope, and I'm going to be careful here, negative. I'm going to be nice with my 6, curve it. Hey, that one wasn't too bad. /5, parenthesis, x, take away the x they gave me, which was 4. Okay, and now I'm going to do two things at once for my next line. I'm going to plus a negative here because I have to distribute this fraction. So I'm going to have to distribute to the x and distribute to the -4. And I'm also going to turn this into plus. So it will be y plus 1 equals -6/5 x. Let me be nice with my 6/5 x. And then I need to use my calculator on this part. So -6/5 times a -4. So anytime you're dealing with fractions, use parentheses. Parenthesis, don't forget to use the dash, -6/5, parenthesis, times, and then it's -4. And you don't need parentheses since it's not a fraction. And that's 4.8, and I just want to keep it as a fraction, so I'm going to go math, slide to a fraction, and that's 24/5. So 24/5. And I think you could keep that as a decimal if you wanted, and then slide it to a fraction in the end. So now I need to get y alone because it says slope-intercept, and if you look at slope-intercept, y is alone for slope-intercept. So I am going to get y alone by subtracting 1 to both sides. So now I need 24/5, whoops, I didn't need to do that slash. 24/5 minus 1. So parenthesis, 24/5, parenthesis, minus 1, enter, and you get 3.8. And I don't know, I might have told Schoology that was okay for you to do, but I know for 8th grade, they love to just leave things looking fancy as a fraction. So I'm going to slide it to a fraction, and it's 19/5. So we have y equals -6/5 x plus 19/5. So I'm going to escape this. I said that aloud so I wouldn't forget. Y equals -6/5x plus 19/5. 19/5. Okay, number 11. There's 800 milliliters of water in a container. Every 2 hours, half the water evaporates. How much water will be left after 8 hours? So that half, every 2 hours, that's decreasing by half. That's like an exponential function. So we would use this, I don't know why they call it geometric sequence. It's the same thing. It's where we have a decay factor in an initial amount, and it keeps decreasing by itself. So I am going to write a dot b to the x, and then my decay factor is a half, so 1/2. So I know it's going to be 1/2 to the x. My initial amount was 800 milliliters, so I'm going to try my hardest to write a nice 8. 800. I really should be doing this on the smart board. I'm in my classroom right now. Okay, so, but I can't put 8 there because this half is related to every 2-hour chunk. So if I have 8 hours, there's 4 2 hours in there, right? So I'm just chunking it into 2 hours. So my hours should be 4. So it will be 800 times 1/2 to the 4th power. And then you just plug that right in to your calculator. So 800 times, and then I'm going to use parenthesis. Anytime you're dealing with a fraction with this calculator, you always use parenthesis. 1/2 parenthesis, and then we have to the 4. Enter, and it will be 50 milliliters. And yep, that's right there, so that's good. Okay, last one on this portion. Solve the following equation for b. Now, please note that this one is, it looks a lot like the one where we did m or n on one of the first or second tests. I don't think you're going to have them this hard, but it's nice to just see. Okay, so anyways, I need b by itself. So what I'm going to do is I see that I'm going to get my b over to my other b term. And then I'm also going to get my c over to the right side. So I'm going to subtract b, and I'm going to also add c. So I'm kind of flopping their places, but when I flop their places, I am doing the inverse because they're going to the opposite side. So now on the left side, it will be a, b, minus b, equals, and then I moved that c over by adding c, so now my c is over here. Again, my purpose for that is because I want b by itself, and so I need to get it together. So now it looks like I have b on both sides, which means it's being shared. So I can use the distributive property to take it back, to take it away. So I'm going to say I'm going to take b away from both of those terms. And then you use parentheses for the distributive. If I take b away from ab, I'd have an a left, minus. If I take b away from the b, you'd have 0. However, there has to be something there. It has to be a term. So you make a 1 come out, equals c. And now they're sticking together, and sticking together means multiply, and this is a quantity. It's b's being multiplied by all that. So to get rid of being multiplied by all that, you divide by all that. So c over a minus 1. And then this one says b can't be solved for. It can, it's just annoying. This one says b, this one b isn't even solved for because it's on both sides, so no. This one didn't have that term. They just got rid of that b term there and didn't make the 1 come out. And lastly, d is the 1. All right, so that's the solutions for questions 1 through 12.